Alright, we're now live as I've tweeted. Brilliant. Okay. So hey guys, welcome to the 7th Jurassic Park live chat. And it's been a while since I've done one of these, so I figured it was about time. There's a lot of news to talk about. There's a lot of stuff to chew on. I'll say Fallen Kingdom. I'll get this out of the way. I think Fallen Kingdom subjects, we're not going to talk about that today, mainly because, we're going to get a lot of news from that soon, with the trailer and stuff on the horizon and that. So we'll leave that for later on, for another live chat. But I will say this, that I am actually planning on doing the Let's Chat Jurassic Park 8 pretty soon after this one. I've actually got enough subjects to talk about, one of which I've got next to me right here, is the free Jurassic Park Adventures books. I recently read all these, and if you don't know what these are, they're a continuation of the story after Jurassic Park 3. The first one is really good, and actually I'd say it's just as good as Jurassic Park 3. The other two, not so much, but they are, good in their own rights. But I'm thinking of going more in depth with these 3 books in the next live stream. So everyone who's watching this, if you want to come back for that one, I'll be posting links and that again soon. I've got this little guy recently. It's Chaos Effect Raptor, which actually was one of the main Jurassic Park toys that I've wanted for a long time. For some reason, I really like that colour scheme, and it's really appealing to the eye. And that is something that is inspiring some work of mine at the moment. But anyway, as you can see below the video of me here, there are the main topics for tonight's discussion. I've got a subject to talk about before we get onto those, but please let me know in the chat. Hey Bradley, let me know in the chat which topic you would like for me to talk about first, and then we'll knock them off the list as we go. But for the time being, actually, there is a subject that quite a few of us were just talking about on Twitter about 30 minutes before I started streaming. A subject was brought up about the raptors in Jurassic Park, and I wanted to sort of talk about that. Hello, Axel. He's at the office in Mexico. Yo, yo, yo. Bradley Smith. How much were those books? Those books were actually really cheap. I think the first one was £4 off Amazon. I mean, it's a little bit scuffed and stuff, and I think one of them has a message to like a kid who it was gifted to back in 2001. But the first one was like £4. I think the second one was £12, and the third one was about £8. So yeah, and these ones are actually in like almost perfect condition, like they're brand new. But I highly recommend Survivor. I think Jurassic Park fans should, reacquaint themselves with this book, because it's definitely a missing chapter from the story that involves the movies. The other ones, even though they are connected to this one and Jurassic Park 3, a lot happens in these books that, I wouldn't consider canon. But we'll get onto that in the next live chat. What was I talking about? Oh yes, we were talking about the raptor, the structure of the raptors, and which one is where during the events of the final act of Jurassic Park. It's come to light through Phil Tippett's notes that he had auctioned off, which I do believe Derek Davis picked up. It's written in there. There's some notes of like the movements of the raptors through the kitchen, and Jurassic Collective and Derek Davis picked up that they're named, the 2 raptors that go into the kitchen are named Kim and Randy. Now Randy is the raptor which opens the door to the kitchen, goes around the corner, and then goes and gets knocked out after it sees Lex's reflection at the end of the kitchen there. And Kim is the raptor that I believe jumps up onto the unit and then eventually gets trapped in the fridge. Now this brings up the question of, well, where was the big one that Muldoon mentions earlier on in the film? And I and as I think we've guessed in the script, it is mentioned that it's the big raptor is in the shed. So that brings up, is the raptor the one that kills Muldoon? Is that raptor Randy or Kim, or is it meant to be the big one? For years, I have been convinced that the raptor that opens the kitchen door, that doesn't get trapped in the freezer, and the one that jumps and attacks the Rex, was the big one. I've even, talked about this in podcasts and other videos. But now everything's completely flipped. So now the big one is trapped in the shed, and Randy and Kim are the ones that kill Muldoon and then go off into the kitchen. So yeah, it's an interesting subject, and it's blown my mind, actually. It's funny how, like, this film that I've been obsessed with since I was a kid still teaches me stuff, and it's all because these little bits of information slowly filter out from the production crew, or from things found online, or theories and stuff that shine new light onto the films. But yeah, I'm actually kind of saddened by this news, because the big one to me was always this raptor that was built up. And I never noticed the switch between the one that opens the door to the kitchen and the one that jumps up on the unit. I thought they were they are two different ones, but it's so confusing. But I thought the big one was the one that opened the door, because the second raptor enters, and then the raptor snaps. It like bites at the one that's just come in, and that roars. So I always thought that one that entered the kitchen held the dominance in that situation. So whether that is the pack structure, so it goes the big one, Randy, then Kim. So Randy really is the raptor to look out for, because if we're to believe that the raptor in the maintenance shed is the big one, then Randy could very well be the one either killing Muldoon, or the one sinisterly, like from the shadows, in a sinister way, like looking on and watching Muldoon being ripped to shed. But yeah. Hi Arjan, welcome to the chat. Oscar, Randy doesn't sound like a girl's name. It doesn't. Raptor Sandy. But yeah, so that's kind of just blown my mind how that that sort of has all played out in the end. But yeah, it does make me sad that the big one, just appears in the film very shortly in the maintenance shed, and then later on follows, opens the tarpaulin, walks in, and then instantly gets eaten by the T-Rex. But the more I thought about this in the last few minutes that we've been talking about it, come to think of it, like the end of Jurassic Park, the raptor comes in, is stalking the people, and then gets eaten by the T-Rex. And the remaining raptor, which is Randy, attacks the T-Rex without a second thought. It drops its hunt for the humans and then launches an assault on the T-Rex, which is almost somewhat similar to the end of Jurassic World, but things are slightly changed in that movie. Blue is the leader of that pack after Owen, and Blue gets taken out really quickly by the Indominus, much like the raptor gets bitten by the T-Rex. And then the other two remaining pack members launch an attack on the T-Rex in sort of a vengeful, to protect the pack kind of mentality. So, Blue then is taken out. So then Charlie and, not Charlie, Delta and Echo then attack the Indominus. And then when the T-Rex comes back, to fight the Indominus, Blue then returns, which is kind of a different twist on the ending of Jurassic Park. The way they homage that scene, but kind of do it in a different way. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Thinking of it under this new light, that there's Randy, Kim, and the big one. But yeah, no, I'm just gonna get a sip of tea. I just made this massive cup of tea ready for this chat. I'm also going to just post into the into some friends. Okay. Hi, Mike. Do we know for sure that the big one isn't Randy or Kim? The evidence for that comes from the script where it mentions that Ellie meets the biggest raptor. That's what it says explicitly. The biggest raptor. So yeah, it's the big one is the one in the maintenance shed. Such a shame that we only see it briefly though. What are you guys saying? Let's have a little look-see. I'm going to see if I can put a raptor up on here. No, Arjun. Kim is the one that goes. Kim is the one that goes into the freezer because Kim enters this kitchen second, jumps up on the unit, and then right. Hello, Spooky Bones. Hi, Cyber Exotic. Is this a game? No. This is a community of Jurassic Park fans who meet up and chat about the franchise. I mean, I'm going to try and pull up the map now on my phone and see if I can decipher, because the map explicitly shows that Kim, I believe, goes into the freezer. Right? Yeah. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on the live chat. Let me see. Can you? This is the map. I don't know if you can see that, but Kim enters the kitchen second, and then ends up in the freezer, and Randy. It's because the shot of the raptors entering the kitchen, you know, they go down like a path like this. This one sticks its head through the hole. So okay, this one's Randy. Let's say you're the camera's where you are. This one's Randy. This one's Kim. They enter the kitchen. Do you know what? I should use raptors. The one on the, this side, sticks his head through the hole, the ladle drops, looks up, jumps onto the unit, walks along, then Kim circles around and is the one that sniffs the ladle. Then... no, wait. This is so confusing. I mean, I could just put it on now. This is the image you're seeing in the background is the DVD of Jurassic Park. So he could go to the scene and actually start going through it, but I don't know if I should, because monetization and all that crap. Now I see, Bradley. I always thought that the big one was killed by the Rex, but apparently not. Apparently not. That is what we're working out. Let me have a look at this map again. So. Yeah, it's all because of this. The bit right at the top of the map shows that Randy takes a different route down a different path compared to Kim. They're not on the same part of the kitchen, unless the film messed up. But I don't know. As far as I'm aware, it's Randy who enters the kitchen, Randy who bangs its head and passes out on the floor for a second. Kim enters the kitchen, then eventually gets trapped in the freezer, and then the big one is the one that is trapped inside the maintenance shed until it opens the door, goes to the visitor center, and then the T-Rex follows it in and gets eaten. There's 3 raptors overall, but one gets trapped in the maintenance shed by Ellie. Yeah. Exactly. So the big one was trapped inside the maintenance shed, right? And then, yeah. Kim is... Kim is yellow. Oh no, wait. So wait. So the one that enters the door gets trapped in the freezer. Oh yeah. Okay. So oh wow, this is getting more and more confusing. So Randy opens the. This is crazy. Randy opens the door to the kitchen and then eventually gets trapped in the freezer. Kim is the one who gets knocked out. Kim is the one that chases them through the visitor center and then, jumps on the T-Rex and is the last one thrown into the fossil. The big one is the one. Okay, right, I got you now. Man, that is confusing. Crazy. Anyway, so guys, enough about these damn raptors. What subject shall we tackle first out of the topics that are underneath my chat window here? Well, we know, yeah, the raptors. I think all the raptors know how to open the doors. The only one we're explicitly shown not opening the doors. Oh no, actually, yeah, they show all of them opening the doors. We know the big one opens the door to the maintenance shed to get out, and we see Randy opening the door to the kitchen and Kim opening the door to the control room. So yeah, which subject should we tackle first? Character arcs, dinosaur versions, Nublar's history, human dinosaur hybrids, or character interactions? I've written down who's asked me for these subjects, so when we tackle each one, I'll give him a shout out. No, we don't. We don't. The big one did not go in the freezer. The big one is inside the maintenance shed, gets locked in with Ellie. That's mentioned in the script. Dinosaur versions. I think everyone's. Oh yeah, maybe I should change the title of the stream. Let's chat Jurassic Park 7. There you go. Alright, let me know if the title of the stream changes. So, okay, I'm going to do dinosaur versions first. So, the reason... who sent me this? I think it's got it on my laptop here. Or it's on my phone. Just going to try and find who wanted me to talk about that. Oh, it was just an anonymous one. Dinosaur versions. I've used the pteranodons for the sort of the, marketing, let's put it that way, for this live chat. Because they're a good place to start when talking about dinosaur versions. So the pteranodons, so we see a few pteranodons in the movies. We see the ones at the end of the Lost World. We see the ones in Jurassic Park 3, and we see the different ones in Jurassic World. There's obviously versions in the books and that, but we're talking mainly film canon here. So we know from the original novel and a few of the marketing materials for the Jurassic Park film series, including actually a few mentioned in these books here, and the moral conversations that the characters have in the movies, that we know that InGen breeds different types of dinosaurs, even in the same sort of gene pool of, we get different versions of velociraptors, we get different versions of T-Rexes, we get different versions of was it pteranodons? I don't know if we see any other versions of. We see a couple of different stegosauruses, I think. But we know that they're always refining the gene pool. They're always getting more and more DNA and stuff like that. Because there's lines in Jurassic World where they talk about the dinosaurs aren't 100% natural. So I've always liked this idea because it essentially brings up the core theme of the films, which is control and chaos. You know, you want the dinosaurs to be a certain way, so they try and control them to look a certain way, or they refine them, and then they find more and more problems with them as they go along. I mean, the whole storyline of the Indominus Rex is that very, that very theme as well, of like, if you can control the look of the animals, then, how do you assume you can actually control it just in general? The Rothbardian. What's the story with the pterodome in space? Why are you in space? I could ask you the same thing. Aren't you in space right now? Right? We're on planet Earth, but aren't we in space? There were pteranodons in the Telltale game, which was once canon, but is now removed from the Jaypee wiki. So safe to assume that the game is non-canon then now. I don't consider it canon. I think, Jurassic World pretty much rewrote the history books in terms of that game. Although I do really like elements of that game. I like the Troodons. I think they're really cool. But anyway, so the Pteranodons, the way I sort of explain the different versions and why they are the way they are and where they're going in terms of like their behavior and stuff, from what I gleaned in the movies, is in the Lost World you have this very elegant giant pteranodon that almost looks quite peaceful, and we know this might be a fish eater because it doesn't have any teeth, which is what that's anatomically correct, that they had no teeth. So I've always assumed that those pteranodons were like the graceful ones that were allowed to stay on the island free, because what is it? They're like not necessarily, they're not man eaters. They're not going to pose a threat. And I'm assuming this fact. I'm assuming that those pteranodons don't fly too far from the islands. Like they're not a what do you call it? When a bird travels long distance. I'm just going to look up something. There's something about those pteranodons as well. The Lost World engine file pteranodon. What are they called? Migrate. I don't think they migrate like off island, so that's why I think they were like allowed to be let free. But that's just my own headcanon at the moment. And then the ones we see in Jurassic Park 3, they have been locked in their aviary the entire time because they are massively aggressive and they've got genetic inconsistencies with what is known in real life. Like they've got teeth and they specifically eat humans, and they're very aggressive. Yeah, the Lost World ones. Now I've pulled up. So there's out there on the internet you can find high-res versions. I don't know if you're going to see this either. There's like high-res versions of the InGen files that Roland Tembo holds. So like, it says here on that file, if you zoom in on it, it actually says the animal's location. And it says pteranodons can be found in the aviary from rivers on the Canal Profondo. The animals are confined to the aviary, so there is no need for tagging. If needed, capture and tagging should be done when the animal is on the ground to avoid injuring them. So it says that it's found on this specific canal. I don't know if that's actually the same aviary as the one we see in Jurassic Park 3, based on the fact that they've been set free. Now, in the canon of things, we can assume that this InGen file was, given to the company or created within the company during the time of, Jurassic Park's, construction. So when we see them at the end of the Lost World and they're free flying around, they've been set free by the hurricane. So we can assume that the aviary that we see in Jurassic Park 3, which is still intact and the pteranodons are contained within, wasn't affected that much compared to the aviary that they were in. So they are like, the two different versions are on separate sides of the island. That's my deduction anyway from researching in the canon. But yeah, the ones in the third film are way more aggressive and confined to their aviary. Now, it's also interesting to note that these two, we haven't seen the pteranodon from the Lost World hunting, but without any teeth, we can assume that it ate fish. Whereas the pteranodons in Jurassic Park 3, we see them specifically eating humans, and also we see them not diving under the water. Now, whether that's, we know it's deep enough to, because the pteranodon, lands in the water and then the cage slams on top of it. So we can assume, and when they're attacking Billy, they don't sort of go towards the water too much, unless it's just because it's shallow. But I've always assumed that those ones are too big to go under the water. They're too clunky and stuff, and that's why they build their nests like up on those pillars and stuff. They live around water, but they don't go into it too much. Now we get onto the ones in Jurassic World, and the pteranodons we see in that film. We see two variations of them. We see ones with like these red faces, and we see the ones with blue faces. And they have the very short horn on the back of their head compared to the other versions. You can see all the different types in this live stream. I think it's up that way. But the very short crest on its head is based on the design of a completely different species of pterosaur or pteranodon. There's several different species in the fossil record. So we have two different versions in the films. Now these ones are confined to an aviary in the middle of the island. Now, if you look at the Jurassic World map, the aviary is right smack bang in the middle of the island. And there's very little water around there. And as we see later on in the film, these pteranodons are specifically designed to dive bomb into water. And we can assume they do that out of the ocean to catch fish, or large fish, because they don't have any teeth as well. So I always assumed that those ones, they're in their aviary, and then when the Indominus smashes through and they escape, they instantly go to the nearest, biggest body of water that is closest to them, and that's obviously the lake right in the middle of the island, which is now surrounded by 20, well, how many thousands of people? 20,000 people, I think, all huddled together, and then that's when they go to town. It's like someone's ringing the dinner bell. So that's why they're like... I don't understand when people say those pteranodons are like monsters in Jurassic World. I don't understand, because you have to look at the conditions they're in and then think of them as animals. What would they do? And I think their first instinct is to go to gather food for their young and stuff, and then they'd probably start settling on the shores of Isla Nublar. And we know at the end of Jurassic World a couple of them are flying around. So even though in the films you have these different versions, there are sort of explanations, very credible explanations about how they sort of can function and work as part of, the overall world building. Compared to, let's say, if you just chalked them off to, they just designed them differently for each film. It's like, well, yeah, they did, but there's also, you can see reasons for doing so in the movies. If you want to have a scene where a pteranodon is diving under the water, like to catch prey, and you've got the shot from under the water, you're going to need to design an animal that actually looks like it does that. And what better to look at the fossil record and find something that looks like, or is theorized to have done that. I love the designs of all three pteranodons. I think they're all uniquely great. I do wish we could have seen more of the Lost World ones. And it is interesting to think, if they did film the original ending to The Lost World, that those pteranodons that we see that seem so gentle and big in the final product, if they would have been aggressive and attacked a helicopter, I don't know. But I think I prefer the ending we got with San Diego, and I prefer the idea that the pteranodons, those ones are graceful, and in Jurassic World you see them attacking a helicopter because of the conditions they've been kept in a way. So there you go. There's my thoughts on dinosaur versions, just summed up in the pteranodons. With the raptors, a lot of fans say that the ones in the third film are a different species compared to the ones we see in 1 and 2. We see only females for the most part in the first film, because unless Randy is actually a male and has made that switch, and that's why those eggs are there. Here's another discussion, like, imagine if that egg nest that Alan Grant found was the nest of, like, Randy and Kim. Has anyone thought about that? What are you guys saying? So, the Lost World Pteranodons aren't migratory. Yeah, is that a word? Arjan, it's safe to assume anything not in the movies is non-canon. I don't agree with that because I think canon is what you make of it. If it's not in the movie, I think you can take things as non-canon. I mean, I take Jurassic Park Survivor as canon for me with the movies, despite that has iguanodons in it and has Eric Kirby roller skating from Velociraptors. But it explains other stuff that Jurassic Park 3 doesn't, which is interesting. And obviously, Masrani Global I have as canon for obvious reasons. But yeah, and even with that, like Jurassic Park 3 for a long time for me, I didn't know if I wanted to count it as canon, but now with Jurassic World I do because I think it's helped more by what do they call it? Retroactive retconning. That's what I heard someone say the other day. Anyway, what are you guys saying? Hello, Jurassic Unicast. Welcome to the chat. What about the pteranodons in the books? Do you know what? It's been a while since I've read the books. I'd have to reread those and go with what the descriptions say in there. But I mean, the books do specifically talk about the different versions, and I can't remember if pteranodons are in the Lost World book. It's been so long since I've read the Lost World. I've actually started listening to the audio book of that, which is pretty cool. The length of the crest could also be a difference of gender, right? Well, the thing about that is there's in the fossil record there are actually two different pteranodon kind of species. There's one with a long crest and there's one with a really short one, and there is a theory that that could be gender, but at the same time, with what Jurassic Park shows us, the film series is I don't think it's meant to be genders because it's more meant to be like they are different species, and the ones in the third film are like genetic mutants because they have teeth and stuff. Speaking of different dinosaur versions, says Oscar, would you describe the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus as a hybrid with DNA of other theropods in it, an Indominus precursor? Well, I would say yes, in my opinion. And also, we may have hinted at that on the Masrani website, but at the same time, we wrote it in a way that you don't have to count that as what the email from Wu that we wrote talks about. That could lean both on those raptors that you see and the Spinosaurus. That said, knowing what the Spinosaurus is like in the fossil record, yes, it's probably safe to assume the Spinosaurus is a genetically engineered theme park monster. Nothing more and nothing less. It would answer for a lot about how, its aggression and that. And if Jack Horner said it, then says it is, then who's going to argue? I just saw that Jurassic Unicast said Horner confirmed it in their interview. And I listened to that. Yeah, he did. Do you consider the Jaypee Telltale game canon? I already just answered this, but no, I don't. We used parts of it on the Masrani website. The Jurassic Park 3 pteranodons seemed quite cumbersome in water, says British Tyrannosaur, like when they were attacking Billy or when Grant fell into the water and the pterosaur struggled before getting trapped. Exactly. Hello, boys. Get in there. Tomato sauce. Pretty sure the pteranodons in Jurassic World are juveniles considering their size compared to that of Jurassic Park 3. You say that, but the pteranodons in Jurassic World are bigger than people remember. Do you remember the shot when Owen and Claire and the kids are like seeing the T-Rex kingdom doors like bash like this, and it's like insinuating that a dinosaur is going to burst through or something, and then the door bursts open and it's actually a crowd of tourists, and it's like, the nightmare of consumerism bursting out. Like, they're all running out. And there's that pteranodon on top of the Spinosaurus skeleton. And if you look at the size of that pteranodon compared to the Spinosaurus, it was big. Like, that was a big flying reptile. Huge creature. Never so clever as this says, The Lost World is a great book, save for the fact most of the time Malcolm is high and personificates endlessly. Yeah, don't we all? I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. Voice Boys. How was the plants Ellie found in Jurassic Park explained? How did they bring these plants back? I sense time travel subplot. Let me think on that. Yeah, how did they get those back? I don't know. Perhaps there was. Maybe they de-evolved modern day plants. I don't know. I guess it's just there to show in the story of how fast the science has escalated. You know, they could bring back animals and also plants. You know, maybe they found some DNA in like the in a mosquito that accidentally, you know, ate a bit of a plant or whatever. Thanks, the Rotherbardian. Mike Bowman. Dr. Sorkin should stay canon. I'd prefer it if they actually wrote Dr. Sorkin as a new film version. If they actually wrote her into the story in a different way. I mean, I like her character in the game, but she exists in a game with a character called Yoda, and you know, this villain character who I just don't believe. You know, the guy who's like willing to kill them to get the can. It's like, ugh. Thursday night pop quiz. Potentially. I'll have to get back to you on that. Do you consider Face Off in the Jurassic Park canon considering the InGen logo? No. No, I do not. Plant matter preserved in the amber. Yeah, they could be like leaves and stuff, because I mean, amber does come from the plant. Anyway, so we've done dinosaur versions. What subject shall we talk about next? We've got quite a few to go through still. And then we can crack on with some more of this Jurassic Park live stream, which actually is going pretty good. Just hoping my sound has come through all right and I'm not too loud or too quiet. Because obviously I cannot... Character arcs? You want me to talk about character arcs? I think that was... Okay, so Jurassic Scones, or Scones, however you want to say it. Jurassic Scones on Twitter sent in 3 of the topics that we're talking about tonight. And I thought they were all interesting, so I couldn't split them up. But he actually brought to the table character arcs, the human dinosaur hybrids, and the history of Nisla Nublar. Yeah, Socktober. They should all be destroyed. Robert Muldoon. So, are we agreeing on character arcs? Is that what we're going for? I'm going to let you guys choose. I don't want to make the choice. If I see character arcs next, I'll talk about that though. We get another vote. British Tyrannosaur. I'd say character arcs. I do want to talk about Grant and Jaypee 3, to be honest. Remind me of that in a minute, and I'll talk about Grant in J. Oh, actually, no, wait, yeah, because that'll go into character arcs. So I want to establish the amount of character arcs, to each film, and also how many have arcs in each of the movies. Now, what designates a character arc is like character has a problem, they learn what that problem is, they overcome it, and they learn something from it. So In Jurassic Park, Ray Arnold, Donald De Niro, arguably Robert Muldoon, Ian Malcolm, they don't have, arguably Tim as well. They don't have arcs. They stay consistent throughout the film. Tim loves dinosaurs at the beginning, and by the end of the film, he is terrified, sure, but he wasn't going there to be proven wrong and be scared of dinosaurs. He probably still likes them afterwards, but he's probably terrified of them. I mean, he still hangs around with Hammond, with Lex. So I've never gotten in the Lost World that they have any grief with their grandfather after the incident. So because they say, not exactly when Malcolm asks if everything's okay, and then Ludlow comes down. Muldoon obviously stays the same. He wants all the dinosaurs to be destroyed. He says clever girl to the raptor. He's been bested by the raptor, but he didn't really learn anything. He knew they were already smart and clever. Ray Arnold doesn't change. And De Niro, I guess De Niro, you could say he has a somewhat of a little arc, but at the same time, him learning that this place is terrifying, he learns his lesson, but he learns it the hard way. Malcolm's arc, I don't know if he has one, because he goes to the island and he basically says it's all going to go to shit. Then it does, and then he basically says, boy, do I hate being right all the time. And then even after he's injured, he is right about the pipes in the maintenance shed, and then that's it. And he asks why the power's still on and stuff. So I really think that Malcolm doesn't have an arc. He is, for lack of a better term, Malcolm is a Mary Sue in a way. He gets everything right and he doesn't change. He has an arc in The Lost World, which comes next, which that's why Malcolm is such a great character in the next film, because we see what he learned from the first film, but it goes even further, and he makes choices on his own instead of following the party. But obviously Ellie, now does Ellie have an arc? She does say she was overwhelmed by the power of that place, helping with the dinosaurs and stuff, so I guess she does have a tiny little arc, but nothing substantial. The two people who have the biggest arcs are obviously Grant and Hammond. Grant and Hammond are night and day in Jurassic Park. You have Grant, someone who loves dinosaurs, he loves looking at things from a distance, meeting dinosaurs and realizing that he's out of a job, and then he realizes that he has fears about controlling life. That's why he doesn't want to have kids. He doesn't want to have kids because kids are out of control. They're noisy, they're messy, they're expensive, and they smell. So Grant has a fear of controlling life because he thinks it's unpredictable. And then through Jurassic Park, he learns with the kids that he can actually, it's not about control, it's about, respect and that with the kids. And that's how he learns to overcome his problems he has at the beginning of the film. Hammond, at the start of the film, assumes he has control of life. But by the end of the film, he realizes he can't control it. As Ellie says to him, it's all an illusion. So those two have the main arcs. One fears controlling life and then learns to adapt with it, and one already assumes he has control and then loses it and learns the cost of that and lives to learn another day. Is what I'm trying to say. You guys are saying Malcolm doesn't change in the Jurassic Park. He changes in the Lost World. So I'm talking specific Jurassic Park here. So like when people bring up character arcs, there's not that many in Jurassic Park. Like not massive. There's two focuses mainly. In the Lost World, now the Lost World has a lot more characters. Ludlow has an arc. But even though he doesn't learn from his mistakes, but he does definitely learn that he's made a mistake, and he doesn't let go of it, and that's his undoing. Roland Tembo definitely has an arc because he loses his friend and gives up. He spent enough time in the company of death. It's very subtle, as who said that a minute ago? Never So Clever at This said Roland Tembo's arc is wonderfully subtle. I agree. Malcolm has an arc because he has to learn, to work with Sarah. That's the whole beginning of the film. Him and Sarah, at odds with each other about being on the island and all this sort of stuff. Even though Malcolm rode in on a white horse, she's okay. She didn't need his help, so he's realized he's kind of gone there and gone, oh crap, she doesn't need my help. But then he, tries to help her, and by the end of the film, they're working together. Sarah has to learn the hard way about the T-Rex's parental instincts and the cost. She's almost I'd say she's almost the Hammond of the film. She has this idea of how T-Rexes are going to act as parents, and then when she says I think the T-Rex's intelligence is now academic, when it comes to them looking after their young, things go downhill from there, and she has to learn to work with Malcolm to then overcome the problems. And I really like their arcs. I think they're the couple of Malcolm and Sarah in The Lost World is definitely one of my favourite aspects of that film. Kelly also has an arc because she has to learn that she is the one to help bring her parent or her parents, her step parents, whoever they are, together. She has to. She at the beginning she's wanting to go on the adventure with Malcolm, and then he says no, so she decides to go on the adventure by herself. Learns that was a mistake, and then she uses her talents with gymnastics to save the day. So all through the arguing in the trailer between Ian and Sarah, Kelly is there, sort of pulling at the threads between them to try and get them to open up to each other, to get together. If you like the way the characters talk to each other, she says to Malcolm, Sarah has a pretty good point, and he's don't finish that sentence. So, yeah. Sarah's arc is muted, but she doesn't change too much, but she has to learn, the dangers of what she's getting into, because at the beginning of the film, Hammond is saying that she's like the new Diane Fossey. She's like someone obsessed with this field of expertise and throws themselves into danger. But Malcolm knows that she's dealing with dinosaurs. She's not dealing with animals of today. And both of them are right. That's the thing. Malcolm's right because T-Rexes are hideously dangerous, especially parental T-Rexes. But Sarah's also right because they can, learn to protect them, like they do at the end of the film. So it's all about them coming together. Anyone else in the film? Hammond is very interesting in The Lost World because he doesn't necessarily have an arc. That said, he does almost revert on himself from Jurassic Park. So he lies to Malcolm. He doesn't tell him at first that Sarah's gone to the island, and he's already hidden that fact from him for, a few days. So he had to pay Eddie and Nick to be there, and Nick Van Owen is his mistake. As he says to Ian, "I'm not making the same mistakes again," and Malcolm says, "You're making all new ones." So I really feel like Hammond is kind of gone back on himself. He's got this new dream in his head of achieving this wildlife preserve. For what reason, other than protecting the island? But we don't know why he wants to protect that island from the public. Because, we know he wants it because he wants the dinosaurs to be left alone. But what good is it to the world if those dinosaurs are just there? And that obviously, could be theorized to be something to do with Jurassic World and stuff, or later on down the line, which was again retroactive retconning, as they call it. So Hammond in The Lost World doesn't really have an arc. So yeah, I don't know. It gets a bit muddled when you've got characters in the Jurassic Park franchise. The characters aren't they're not necessarily like good guys and bad guys. They kind of flip between making bad decisions and good ones, like ordinary people do. Um, Let me just see what you guys are saying before I talk about Jurassic Park 3. Masrani, give an inch and he'll take a mile. Yeah, we'll get to Masrani. Kelly begins with a father who's hardly there for her and ends with a dad who adopted mum Sarah sleeping by her side. A nice visual thread. Yeah, it's also, Oscar, interesting to note at the end of Jurassic Park, the end shot is Grant and Ellie awake with the kids asleep on them, and at the end of The Lost World, they're asleep with the kid awake. So, like, I always assume that it's like flipped. It's like the kid is looking after the parents other than the parents looking after the kid. But there's a point in the film with the gymnastics scene is the point in the film where like Kelly saves the day and then she's given them like the chance to work together when they get back to San Diego after the incident. Hello, Master Builder. Welcome to the chat. What's cracking, bitches? Hammond's philosophical outlook shifts in The Lost World, but his personality and means remain the same. Exactly, and as we know in Jurassic World, his dying wish to Masrani was to see his dream come alive. Now, whether that was a mishearing or however that went down, we still don't know all the ins and outs. We only have Masrani's word to go on. So, so we know Hammond still wanted that dream even after what happened. Even after he said to Grant he didn't want to endorse the park, and we can see in The Lost World he's like a tragic character. He can't let go of of that dream. He just can't let go of it. What did I miss? I was in class. We've only talked about 2 of the subjects, Master Builder. We've talked about dinosaur versions, and we're now on character arcs. So Jurassic Park 3. If you go by ratio of characters to the length of the film, to the number of character arcs, one could argue Jurassic Park 3 has more character arcs than any other Jurassic Park film. Not good ones, but still more character arcs. So let's start with Alan Grant. Alan Grant does not learn anything from Jurassic Park. He goes completely back to step 1. You know, he doesn't know how to interact with children as he's like playing with Charlie, and Ellie's like, Alan, he's free, come on. And he's like, oh yeah, of course. He still doesn't like computers, as we know in the dig site. He's still running a dig site that is failing in funding. And he's also, he gets lost on an island with Eric Kirby and has to learn to work with a kid again. And also, just a final point, he what is it? What was the point I'm missing? He gets duped into going to the island through someone offering him money, which was the exact motive to get him to the island in the first film. So Alan Grant's character in Jurassic Park 3 is irritating because it doesn't move on from Jurassic Park, where we last saw them, or like even explain it in a more believable fashion. It's like, oh, he's just back to square one. It just seems a bit cheap. But at the same time, like that kind of crap does happen in real life. People do make the same mistakes twice. So even though I do consider it canon, so I kind of, by no default of my own, or no fault of my own, I have to consider that Alan Grant's character was just a bit of a douche. By Jurassic Park 3, he was like a jaded character. He does like kids in Jurassic Park 3. He is trying to play with them, but at the same time, he doesn't know really how to interact with them. But then again, he gets saved by Eric in the third film. So I guess they do carry on that he likes kids, but at the same time, it's somewhat going back on itself. the Kirbys. Let's talk about the Kirbys. Eric Kirby has a little arc where he's like excited to see dinosaurs at the beginning. He learns to live on the island. If you read this book, he learns harshly what the island is going to, put in front of him, what he has to like sort of overcome. And then when Alan Grant meets him, he's this, kid who's just tackled everything, and he's survived through thick and thin. And then he just latches onto the parents and doesn't really do much. So I don't know if he has an arc per se, because even at the end of the film, he looks out the window of the plane and says like, "Where do you think they're going?" And it's like, dude, you should be mortified by what you're seeing. 5 seconds ago, they were trying to eat you. So like, I don't know if he has an arc. But the other two Kirbys, Amanda and Paul, they do. Paul and Amanda don't get on. Paul makes the mistakes of like hiring Grant. By the end of the film, he makes the sacrifice to go up. He knows all the mistakes he's made, and he climbs the crane tower and almost uses himself like bait for the Spinosaurus to distract it from the others. And Amanda Kirby is the one who has to give the eggs back to the raptors. She has to. She's been screaming the entire film, and then right at the end, she is met face to face with the most vicious, intelligent killer on the island, as far as we know. And then she, she gives the eggs back, and she becomes I guess a hard ass. But we don't actually see much of her badass streak until like not much after that she does that. She just gets rescued straight afterwards. Udesky, Nash, and all those other characters, they don't have an arc. Billy, I'd say Billy does, because he survives to the end. I mean, if he died, then I would say he did sacrifice himself. So maybe, Billy had an arc. So that's Grant, Billy, Amanda, and Paul. And to an extent, Eric, but he's not really. But that's 4 character arcs. So that's all, like just as many as like The Lost World, I guess. Maybe it has more. Does Ellie have an arc? Not so much. She has learnt from her mistakes. Enjoy your lunch, Master Builder. Dr. Grant is my all-time favourite character, says Paris Peacock. Yeah, Grant is pretty cool. I mean, he's just down here. I think if I'm pointing correctly, he's just here, right below me. Grant is a really cool character, but Jurassic Park 3, it's I don't know. He's. I just wish he had a bit more to do. Oscar says it's sad to make Grant's character work on Isla Sorna. They had to reset his character. They could have had something way more interesting. Yeah, they could have just added a little bit more detail into like his personality, I think. But that's just me. Now, Jurassic World, the character arcs that we have in there. Claire, obviously. Now, Claire is a character we have to keep in mind that they're doing something with these new films that they haven't done previously with the other Jurassic films. What they're doing is they are specifically carrying over characters to the next film, right? Now, I know you're thinking, well, what about Malcolm to The Lost World? Well, that is what they're doing, but this time the focus are the main characters. Like, Ian Malcolm he was a main character, sure, but he wasn't like Alan and Ellie was in the first film. Like, they're the main focus. We meet, Dr. Malcolm a little way into the movie. Alan and Ellie have their own scene to introduce themselves. So in this next one, we've got Owen and Claire as like the leads, and it's like that is something that we haven't really seen too much of. And also, it's been stated that Claire's character arc is going to span overall over 3 movies. That said, you can watch each film on its own, and you don't have to watch all 3 of them. Claire's arc in Jurassic World is someone just learning that they should let go of this idea of control that they surround themselves in because the technology has got so good that it's been safe for so long. It's like the public and the people running Jurassic World have that they've already succumbed to control to the point where they're assuming it's safe, and the stakes are higher because there's more people on the island, and it's a race against time to stop all this stuff happening. Bradley Smith says Grant being kidnapped would have been cool. Well, technically he was kidnapped in Jurassic Park 3. I mean, Udesky says, but I did not tell you to kidnap somebody. Now, Owen, I would argue, is like Malcolm in Jurassic Park. Owen doesn't really have an arc because by the end of the film, he's the same as he was at the beginning. At the beginning of the film, he is confronted by Hoskins, who the first thing says, damn, you've got those raptors eating out of your palm. And Owen says to him, you came on a good day. It's not always a happy ending. And then when he says we need to, take it to the next step, when Hoskins says that, Owen turns on his heel and walks the other way. So right from the beginning of the film, Owen is thinking, no, we just need to teach these raptors a few things, see how they adapt and learn from them that way as best we can without going too far. Not going to crazy lengths like putting them in the military, which is just ridiculous. But and by the end of the film, he still thinks that to an extent, because obviously the raptors escape their pen through a Hoskins choice. Hoskins forces the choice to get the raptors out, and he says to Owen, with his men all around him, this will happen either with or without you. And Owen knows that it will be even worse without him. So he agrees and goes along with it, hence why he gets on the bike. But Owen isn't agreeing with this because even Barry says to him, this is suicide, it's crazy. And it's yeah, it is crazy. Hoskins is an absolute madman. But at the same time, Owen still doesn't learn anything. So he is kind of like a Mary Sue in Jurassic World. And I kind of like that. It's great. It's he is like the Malcolm of this film. He goes through some stuff, but he doesn't necessarily learn anything. Now, who's to say what he's going to be like in the next film? We'll have to wait and see next year. Other character arcs in Jurassic World, one of the most notable ones I don't hear too many people talking about is Zach. Zach is one of the main characters in terms of he has to look after his little brother, and he has one of the strongest arcs in that film. He learns that even though his family are taking the mick out of him and stuff, and he's being distracted by girls because he's of that age, he drops all that when he realizes his parents are going through a divorce after Gray tells him, and he makes the choice to look after his little brother. Now, at first, he doesn't make the right choice. He goes, hey, let's go off-road in the gyrosphere, and that leads to them getting lost in the park. But then through them going on their adventure and eventually making it back to the visitors, to Main Street, he learns to look after his little brother, and he says to him, I'm never going anywhere. We might be far away as we grow up in life, but, you're always going to have a brother. Yeah, British Tyrannosaur. It's right. Not every character has to learn something. I mean, that's why, that's why I always hear people complaining about, Owen and stuff being too cool. It's well, Malcolm was too cool. It's not every character has to, go through everything, and even then, they still have to have obstacles to overcome. They might not learn something because they might have they're coming from a place of they've already been there. Who's to say Owen didn't learn that in the Navy somehow? Oscar says, I thought Owen's arc is almost dialogue free, from beginning in charge of the Raptor Pack as the alpha and liking that, to having to let them go. Last glance towards Blue in the end. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I would say he enjoys, he does, but he does like looking after the raptors, but at the same time he knows how dangerous they are. He's like a Muldoon who doesn't want to see him destroyed, but wants to learn from them. And that's why I love his character, because he's kind of like a mixture between Ian Malcolm, Alan Grant, and Muldoon. If you got those three characters and took little bits out of them and put them into one, you'd get Owen. Masrani in the film kind of has an arc in a way. He like says to Claire at the beginning, he's like, well, it's not really an arc. He has an arc in the same sort of way as Gennaro. Like, Gennaro goes to the island and like, we're going to make a fortune with this place. And then he's like joking about how much money they're going to make. And then he quickly learns how wrong he is about that because the dinosaurs break out and eat him. Same sort of thing with Masrani. He's like, you know, hey, he says like the only way to have a happy life is to let go of control and you know, almost hit some birds. And then like he tries to take control himself because he realizes he's let so many things slip through his fingers throughout before and during the events of Jurassic World. So when Hoskins comes up to him and says like, hey, we've got the raptors, we need to let the raptors out to kill the Indominus. He says no velociraptors are going to be set loose on this island. He knows that's a really bad idea. So he, you know, tries to take control after Hoskins says like, you know, what are you going to do? So he goes with Owen's plan. He puts the minigun on the helicopter and goes to try and save the day, but then gets killed by the dinosaurs. So he's kind of like a Gennaro. He tries to take control. He assumed he had control, and then he loses it, and very quickly, which reminds him of like, oh crap, like, you know, what he said at the start of the film, the only way to have a happy life is to let go of control, is a wrong statement to live by because you can't let go of control. You've got to learn to respect it and work with it, which is what Owen has been saying from the beginning. I don't know if any other characters have arcs in Jurassic World aside from that. I mean, Hoskins doesn't. He's the same right up until the end. He even tries to take Owen's tactics and puts his hand out to try and calm Delta down, but that just doesn't work. And also Jake Johnson doesn't have an arc to a point because even at the beginning of the film he's saying like, you know, they're animals and stuff and we should respect them. Never So Clever at this says, do you believe that Owen is the grown-up fat kid from Jurassic Park 1 that Alan scared? No. Absolutely not. And even the actor who played that kid said he's not, because he said, hey, he can't steal my character. I think he said it in an interview one time. Egypticus. Owen doesn't really have a flaw, though. He's pretty much good at everything. He is, but at the same time, like, he respects other people's, like, you know, he respects the pecking order. So, like, his downfall, in a way, is, like, he has to go along with Hoskins. He respects his superiors in a way, like, or like he respects. No, well, he doesn't respect them because he punches him. But like, what am I trying to get to? He knows when Hoskins says like this is happening with or without you. He knows that like it's going to be worse without me. So he knows that like he's got to sort of try and take control with the raptors, but then he loses it when they meet the Indominus. The Rex has an arc, says Jurassic Unicast. You'll have to explain that, dude. How does the Rex have an arc? I don't know if the T-Rex has an arc, man. Blue, on the other hand, even has an arc. Blue, at the beginning, you know, is willing to attack Owen, and if he didn't make it to that gate in time, Blue and the Raptors would have killed him. So, when it comes to the Indominus, you know, fight and stuff, and Blue meets back up with Owen, he takes the harness off, and Blue learns where her loyalty should actually lie. I'm not reading that up. I'm on a live stream. If I start reading now, it'll be the most boring live stream ever. Okay, so that's enough of character arcs. There's interesting arcs for all the films, and each film, like Jurassic World probably has Jurassic World, Jurassic Park 3, and The Lost World have loads. Jurassic Park actually doesn't have that many, but there's different variations of how like in your face these character arcs are. Lula Coco 111 says, anytime talking about Jurassic World, the first thing I always go to is Claire opening the giant door with the flare. I think because of my childhood heart, I love that moment. Yeah, of course. That was a kick-ass moment. I was literally on the edge of my seat. Oh, okay, sorry. You wrote the arc's in the chat. Let me scroll up. I can't find it, man. Where are we looking? I can't find it, dude. I can't find the... Oh, are you saying it's a fan theory, the arc? I don't know. Nublar's history. That's what someone said. No, I disagree with that British Tyrannosaur. I think Owen does know why they made the Indominus. He knows they're to boost sales because Claire says to him it was made via focus groups. He thinks it's a bad idea. You know, he's brought to the paddock and he says, like, you know, he basically says from the beginning that the Indominus is a bad idea. Anyway, Isla Nublar's history. Now, this subject... where are we looking? Was again brought up by Jurassic Scones. He said, what? So basically, it came from this. The maps of Isla Nublar, the differences between them. Should we give precedent to the Jurassic World site, the online Jurassic World website map? I would say, and then we'll go on to a little bit of the history of Nublar. Oh wait, no, wait. I see you're talking about the T-Rex again. Breaks out as a monster, hero to humans. Nah, no, I don't think that's an arc. I don't think the T-Rex is a hero to humans. Like in Jurassic Park, she saves the day because she attacks the raptor because they're all standing still. In Jurassic World, she's following the flare. You know, she would have eaten Claire if she'd have caught up with her. But she walks out following the flare, smashes through the Spinosaurus skeleton, and then sees a giant theropod right there. And obviously there's the territorial thing. There's the monstrous thing about it. Like those two giant monsters. They're like, oh, I'm going to kill you. Like they can't stand each other. It's like a lion meeting a tiger or something. So like, I don't think the T-Rex is actually being a hero to humans. And I think at the end, after the Indominus is killed by the Mosasaurus, I think she walks off because she's just wants to get away. She's not hungry, as like what is it? As Roland Tembo says, Rex just fed, won't stalk us for food. You know, we know the T-Rex was fed earlier that day with a goat and stuff. So who's to say she would, you know, was hungry at that point? Yeah, I've already talked about Blue's arc. Okay, back to the Nublar map. I would say that the Nublar map, the one on the Jurassic World website, you have to remember, is meant to be an online brochure. So it's an artistic rendition of the island, both in our world and in the fictional world. The map, I would say, that you would use as precedent is the one that currently now in the canon up to this point, we should use the one from the Jurassic World movie where you see it in the background when Hamada's getting ready with the InGen security guys, the asset containment unit, and you see it lied across the table when Owen is saying the Indominus is in Section 5. That's like a really topographical map. And yeah, you can find it on Google Image. It's really good. I wouldn't go with the one on the website. The difference between that map and the one in Jurassic Park is I guess just geography. You know, rising sea levels, all that sort of stuff. More plant growth and all that. Yankee 108. Hey, hey. But yeah, Nublar's history, there's been a lot of discussions with this recently with myself and a few others on Twitter. We've been talking about like what happened on Isla Nublar between Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, because it's barely mentioned in the other sequels, and what's really going on there. And I simply put it as this. I did mention on Twitter that I didn't want to go too in depth with this because, you know, there's a lot of your own headcanon in there. But the Masrani Global website, what we wrote on there is basically what I thought would happen on that island in that time. And obviously it was all approved by Universal. So at the moment it's the established canon in you know, according to the production. But whether you fans want to take it, it's up to you, because the website is part of the extended universe. It's part of the EU. Hello, Jurassic Park podcast. Yo, Brad, what's up? Michael Garnett. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World maps have some inconsistency. The Visitor Center and Jurassic Park map looks in a similar location to Jurassic World Main Street, not so far north. Well, that's a misconception, because the Visitor Center on the island in Jurassic World is in the same place as it is in Jurassic Park. It's in the exact same place. It's not north of the island. If you go to, I actually discussed this already, the location of the Visitor Center in Jurassic World. If you go to my YouTube channel, if you actually go on my YouTube channel and go to, I think it's the 5th Jurassic Park live chat, I actually have the map and I've pinpointed where the Visitor Center is on the map. It's in the background. I'm just going to see if I can double check that that's the 5th one. Where are we looking? No, not the 5th one. Let's chat Jurassic Park 4. And if you look at that map in the background there, the yellow dot, the yellow circle is the one where the Visitor Center is. Yep, see you later, James, or Steve, whichever one it is from Jurassic Unicast. Should coastal erosion count into how the island should look now? Over time, some of the island will have eroded away. Potentially, and you've also got to think of like, winds and hurricanes and stuff, tropical storms that hit the island, and plant growth and all that sort of stuff. And also remember that there is a volcano on Isla Nublar, so the island is a very in a very volcanic area of the world. So who's to say like the island hasn't been pushed up out of the ocean or something a little bit more? Yeah. I'm saying Mike Bowen just said, you're saying the Jurassic World site map is different to the Jurassic World on-screen map. Yes, because the map on the Jurassic World website is meant to be an in-universe online brochure. It's meant, when you're on that, it's like you're looking at look at it this way. You take the map of Isla Nublar that is shown on the control room screen, and then compare that to the map in the brochures that they have in the tour vehicles. Those two maps look very different. There's a lot of inconsistencies between both, because one's just a cartoon render, just for the sake of tourists, and one is meant to be a more accurate map. Well, the volcano is also represented in Jurassic World on the map inside the control room. You know, when Claire and Masrani and that are all talking. If you look on if you actually look on the screen, you can see the volcano. And there has been, a volcano on that island for years. But yeah, in terms of like what happened on Nublar, is like I said, what's on the Masrani Global website is all the hints we have at the moment, and we wrote it to be like, there's company mystery surrounds that island between 1993 or 1994, sorry, and 2005 or whenever the park opened, like or 2002 when they started building Jurassic World in the extended universe canon. Yeah, so that's just simply it. I just think there's a lot of mystery around that island, and we don't know all the facts. Okay, so shall we move on to a different subject? Yeah, the Jurassic World brochure map is based off the one that is on the online website. So the online website is more like a 3D version. So shall we talk about human dinosaur hybrids? I think that was the last subject from Jurassic Scones. Yeah, he said, is it a bad idea for the movies? So I think once we've just finished this Nublar subject, I'll just start talking about that. There's definitely been enough action on Nublar to warrant a military strike team to be ready to siege the beach. Do you think the bombing of Nublar ever occurred in any form or not at all? Not at all in the films. In the book, yes. It's explicitly stated, but in the films, I don't think they ever napalmed Nublar. So Never Not So Clever asked, there's definitely been enough action on Nublar to warrant a military strike. I don't know. I don't think so. I think as the films go on, it's going to be more and more interesting as how the world reacts to these animals. Human dinosaur hybrids a bad idea? Yes, absolutely, says Egypticus. Never Not So Clever at this says, ew, I really dislike human dinosaur hybrid idea. I'm going to put it this way, and I don't want people to tear my head off for this, but I don't hate any concept in like that. I don't hate that idea. I hate the potential execution of that idea that is so prevalent in a lot of Jurassic Park media that surrounds that, like the John Sayles script. I think if you implemented a human dinosaur hybrid into the film series, you could do it in an effective way if it was like, and I'm putting it this way, like imagine a scene where like, I don't know, the main character, let's say like an Alan Grant type character, or Owen or whoever, goes down into like this secret InGen bunker somewhere, and they open a door, and there's just this table with like a body bag on it, and then they open the body bag, and inside it is this failed experiment between human and dinosaur hybrid that just looks horrendous. Like they wouldn't even need to show it. It's like imagine if it was like the dead girl's body in Jaws. You know how you only see her hand, and he's like, they pull out that tiny little tray. Like imagine if they did a scene like that, but then it's like, oh, they did try human dinosaur hybrids, but it was hideous and it was wrong, and it did not turn out right, and it did not live. Like it wasn't alive. It died like 10 seconds after being born or something. That's such a hideous, horrible concept that like really makes the idea of genetic manipulation this, like you could play with the themes of horror and stuff with that. Very Frankenstein-esque. So I don't hate that idea. I just think the idea of it being seen on screen in the form of like what we see, the concept art of like the Sayles script. Yeah, I don't like that idea, but they could introduce that to be explored in a way that's a little bit more like hard hitting and kind of haunting. Because obviously the genetic manipulation thing has been there right from the first novel. So it's very much a core thing of the franchise, as I was saying earlier with the dinosaur versions. They mention the destruction of Nublar in a cut scene from The Lost World. They do, yes, but I would say it's deleted. They cut that scene for a reason. And, you watch the final film. Like, we didn't know about that cut scene until the DVD came out with the deleted scenes. I hadn't seen it on TV or anything. So, like, for me, when The Lost World came out, until the DVDs, which was a good number of years, I didn't even question Nublar's destruction, aside from in the book. I thought the films were like, okay, they're savouring Nublar for something else down the line. And, lo and behold, not that they were planning it right from the beginning, but luckily, Jurassic World comes out, and it kind of proves that. It's like, yeah, they were savouring Nublar. Resurrecting an early hominid. So like a caveman, that would be interesting. But I think like it might get a bit hokey with cavemen running around. I mean, I could just about handle Eric Kirby with all the leaves running through the jungle with the dinosaurs. I think obviously that costume design is like, he's almost like a caveman kind of thing, living in the wild, like a wild man. That much I could take. Would hybrids be the villain of the movie? It would have been interesting, if anything. I just wanted to know what the hybrids would have fought. And would those hybrids have been the villains of the movie for Grant/Malcolm or whoever to fight? Says British Tyrannosaur. Yeah, it would have been interesting. I mean, speaking of which, look at this hybrid. That looks kick-ass. Human dinosaur hybrids is the perfect thematic resolution for where the saga has been heading. Dinosaurs and man thrown back into the mix together, open source and genetics. It is, and that's what I mean. Like the idea of seeing like a failed experiment that like you don't see one alive, that would be kind of hideous. But yeah, it could be shot in a really disturbing way. Michael Garnett says, I always liked Jurassic Park, Jurassic World for feeling scientifically feasible. I fear with human dinosaur hybrids based on the old concept art feels like a total genre shift. Again, that's what I'm saying. It would feel like a genre shift if it went down that sort of hokey idea of what we saw in the concept art, but it could be shot in an interesting way. Like the argument for this is, when I was a kid, I hated the chaos theory line. I didn't like it. I was like, I don't like these ideas of these hybrids when I was younger. But then as I got older, I kind of realised, I was like, actually, when you look at science today in real life, like real science, it is more feasible for us to create genetic hybrids between different species of animals than it is to actually clone a dinosaur. So in the real world, a hybrid is more realistic than cloning a dinosaur. Now, Jurassic Park, the first film, convinced us that in that world they could bring dinosaurs back to life. So who's to say you couldn't also put that together with the idea of blending those species? And now we've got Jurassic World where they did it with the Indominus. And I would say, thank God it was done in that way, mainly because, as you said, like it's scientifically feasible. I like that they didn't go overboard with the Indominus to a point that was so ridiculous. Like it could camouflage, but we know that animals can do that. It can hide its heat signature. We know animals could do that. It's basically like a giant raptor with, it's a T-Rex sized raptor, which, if you look at the evolution of the raptors as a character in each film, I always think people overlook the Indominus as part of that family. Because, as Owen says, that thing's part raptor, and it has the quills down its neck, much like the ones in Jurassic Park 3. So I'm like, yeah, I always consider the Indominus like a quasi-raptor that's just massive. So the idea of a human dinosaur hybrid, I think, I agree, it does feel like the natural next step, but, to make it more scientifically believable, you'd need to just see something like, as I said, like a failed experiment. But that's my own opinion on that matter. British Tyrannosaur. If I was going to introduce them at all, it should be a tease in the final film of the saga of how far genetic technology was heading. Very Crichton-esque. Then in the final, kill them off before that. Mm, yeah. Why does the I-Rex have thumbs? Because it has some, and I'm going to butcher this name, Therizinosaurus. It has like this. There's a dinosaur. A lot of dinosaurs have thumbs. I think the Carnotaurus, which DNA is also in the Indominus, like a little tiny dash of it. I think they had thumbs, if I'm not mistaken. But they're not. They're not thumb. It's not a thumb entirely. I guess it is kind of like ours, yeah. Totally agree. I like when we're using nature for inspiration. Spielberg said Jaypee is not a monster movie, so I don't want hybrids to make it just that. Exactly, and this is the thing. But this is the whole like conflicting statements I hear from people who don't like hybrids. Is I've heard so many people say that they don't want hybrids in the series because it will make it too much like a monster movie. And then I hear people complain that the Indominus didn't do anything that was too hybrid, like wasn't crazy enough to, like they say it was just a big dinosaur, and it didn't act any different to any other dinosaur. And it's like, well, it acted like a raptor, but it acted like a raptor the size of a T-Rex, which shouldn't exist. So I think they perfectly like balanced the hybrid levels in that film, and I think if they keep introducing stuff like that at that sort of mindset, I could handle that. That's not to me that doesn't make it a monster movie. The Jurassic Park series are monster movies in a way because it is all fictional. So, but they have them act like animals. Crichton literally had human-animal hybrids in Next. Yes, and that is a damn good book. Okay, so I think finally we're going to talk about the last subject because my throat is getting dry. Hmm. The Indominus is smarter than a raptor and picks things up and throws them like a primate. It's true that it is it's shown to be the smartest animal we've made, but it doesn't do anything that's too out there. And he says it picks things up and throws them like a primate. In the canon of the movies, Alan Grant theorizes that raptors were more intelligent than primates. So in the canon of Jurassic Park, the raptors are stupidly intelligent. So the fact that the Indominus has a good portion of raptor DNA in it, I can see it overcoming problems like that. Egypticus said, I think the problem with the Indominus for many people is that it didn't look outrageous enough to be a hybrid. Some of the early concept art shows some pretty cool variations. I do like some of the early concept art, but I think that if they had gone with like a really wacky design for the Indominus compared to what we got, I think it would stick out like a sore thumb and it wouldn't have worked. I think they've just nailed the level of wackiness, I'm going to use that word, for the Indominus in the film. The ability to throw and grab is a primate characteristic. No, because I would say squirrels. I've seen squirrels pick things up and throw them. They're not primates. I think animals we like to think that that's kind of a uniquely human or primate thing, but I don't think it is. Many creatures use their hands for things. Cats as well. But they don't have thumbs, but they do scoop. Inuyasha Dinosaur 101 Brewer. What would happen if an Inuyasha and I don't even know what that is, I'm sorry, and Jurassic Park films had a crossover? What would they do with that? I don't know what the first thing is, so I can't speculate further on that. In Jurassic Park 3, the raptor was able to perceive how it looked to Amanda Kirby. That is insane intelligence. Yes, and I'm not going to open that can of worms. Not again. The Indominus' scheme to get out of its containment is a theory of mind. Masrani says so. Yeah, it's testing. It knows that in order to get out, it needs to have the people who are keeping it there open the doors for it. So, like, it uses the humans to get out rather than... Like, it tries to... Maybe it's, like, luring food. Maybe that's a way of, like... Maybe the Indominus didn't anticipate... I don't know. Maybe it was, like, just trying to lure food to it. And it knew that it was trapped in there. So it scratched the wall up to be like, if they think I'm out, they're going to come in here and I'll get a nice meal. It didn't know they were going to leave the door open, or that, the paddock worker was going to open the door. I don't think the Indominus knew that was going to happen, but it knew people would come in. It knew that much. Okay, so final subject is from Yaroslav, my good friend. He sent in the question of character interactions. He wanted me to talk about, like, if characters met each other from different films, like what if Robert Muldoon met Roland Tembo and all that. It's one of those subjects where you're just like, where do you even begin? What would Robert Muldoon and Tembo say to each other? Would they like each other? I have no idea. I think I'm actually a little bit spent. Let's see what he says on here. What did Yaroslav say to me the other day? Let's see. He said, talk about how you think alternate character interactions would play out. Grant and Burke, Ellie, Claire, Paul Hoskins. I think Hot Paul would be Hoskins' bitch. Yeah. And I think, like, Ellie and Sarah would get on. Yeah, like Jurassic Park Ellie and Sarah, not so much Sarah and Jurassic Park 3 Ellie. Claire, I think, would probably get on a lot of people's nerves at the start, but now Claire might be, by the end of Jurassic World, I think Claire might be more sympathetic to them. Yeah, I agree. Muldoon wouldn't give Tembo the time of day. But Muldoon is he is a game warden from Kenya. So he must have worked with big animals. Yeah, I think the Grant and Burke, the paleontologist Burke from the Lost World meeting, would be an interesting one. I think have a scene with Alan Grant, Robert Burke, and Sarah Harding would have been mind-blowing to see. But unfortunately, Burke is dead, and we don't know where Sarah Harding is at this time. So Muldoon is the type of guy who'd take a rich dentist on a safari without compunction. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Muldoon's the kind of person who would potentially set up camp in a Rex nest. Yeah. Spooky Bones 224 says, do you think that there would be a real Jurassic Park? I would argue there is already real Jurassic Parks all across the world. They're called zoos. I don't want to sound too patronising there, but like, you look at a giraffe is like the mammalian equivalent of a brachiosaurus. It has the long neck, it's a plant eater. You got rhinos, they're like triceratops. Lions and hyenas are like allosauruses and T-rexes. Crocodiles as well, they're like giganotosauruses. You look at the animals today and they're incredible. I saw a humpback whale the other day. I was in Seattle for a wedding, and we went out on this boat and saw a humpback whale out in the wild, and that thing was like 35 feet long and weighed, God knows, near 50 ton or like 40 tons away. It was huge, massive animal out in the wild. But yeah, you just see those things out there, and it makes you realise that you watch films like Jurassic Park, and they are really fun, and it's cool to speculate on, like, if one day we'll ever see dinosaurs again. I don't believe we will. But, like, at this time. Let's just put it that way. But you see animals in the wild that are just that dwarf dinosaurs, and it's definitely worth the price of a ticket to go do it. I would say, yeah. Have you heard anything about the new IDW comic series? They're surely going to be great for EU stuff. No, I haven't. I haven't heard anything but what you guys have probably heard, that they're making it. So I'd love to get the chance to write a few comics, but maybe if I play my cards right. Mike Bowen, do you think Crichton was arguing that any Jurassic Park is destined to fail, or just a specific one? I think, obviously, in the first book, we have to remember that the thing that control is an illusion, and that control even bleeds onto the people who are hired to work there. Like, Hammond thought he had all the dinosaurs under control, but what he didn't do was respect his staff. Like, he didn't respect Nedry enough. So Nedry got to a position in his life where he was jaded enough to make a mistake for money, and that undone the park. Had Hammond showed him some compassion and thought things through a little bit easier, put locking mechanisms on the vehicle doors and stuff, maybe the park would have functioned. And from the failing of Jurassic Park grew the 10 years of perfect, well, for all we know, the perfect park, Jurassic World being open for that amount of time, with no mistakes really happening. So they learned from their mistakes, but then they made new ones, as Malcolm tells Hammond. Never so clever at this says, any park like that is just doomed to fail. It also dooms the world's ecosystem. That is an entirely different subject. Well, not an entirely different one, but yeah, I agree. The dinosaur park is destined to change our ecosystem and destroy what we know about it, if that was to happen. But I don't know. New animals are always coming into existence, but through man's, tampering. Dog species. There's so many species of dogs that shouldn't exist, but we bred certain breeds from around the world and created hybrids of them. So, who's to say if it would actually balance or bring a different type of balance to the ecosystem, or find a balance within it, or would it destroy it? I don't know, but yeah, in the book it was their handling of the computers as well that was the downfall. Alright, hey guys, I think that is it for today. I think I'm going to call it right there. This stream has been a lot of fun, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. I'm going to, just for the record, I'm going to be releasing, this will be online after I finish streaming, once I've, all done here. I'll make sure this is online and ready to be viewed as soon as possible. I have a new video coming, a new Pterodome episode, where I do a commentary with my friend Jack for the film Anaconda. We chilled out and watched Anaconda one day, and I wanted to do a video about that. But also in that video, which should be released either tomorrow or the day after, it's got a little short film, which I think if you're a Jurassic Park fan, you'd like. There's a 10-minute opening to that commentary, which I edited together over the last year, using old footage that I had from old Pterodome episodes, because I'm bringing some of them back. So that should be online soon. And I'll also be doing another Let's Chat Jurassic Park 8 will be happening. I don't know, when do you guys think I should do the 8th one of these? Should I do it next week, or should I wait a little bit longer, do you think? I could talk about this shit all day, but my throat gets too dry. Julie W., have you heard about the chicken to dinosaur project? Yes, I have, and I would say that that's not a dinosaur. It would be a whole new species if they manage to achieve that. It's an ambitious project, and it's kind of I'll believe it when I see more of it, but I don't know. Morally, is it right? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff our species does that is arguably immoral. But anyway, alright guys, I'm going to call it quits there. I really hope you've enjoyed this stream. I hope you've learned some stuff. I've learned some stuff with the raptors in the kitchen. That whole conversation right at the beginning. I learned something about Jurassic Park even now. So, yeah. Okay, everyone's saying next week. Okay, I'll accumulate some subjects for next week's chat. I've already got a couple. I'll go in depth, as I said, into these 3 books. So if you don't want these books spoiled, I'd say probably skip the next Let's Chat until you've read them. They are quite easy to find, but if you don't care and you want to hear me briefly break down the stories in this, then yeah, let me know. And if you follow me on Twitter at Jack_Ewins, EWINS, you will be able to send me whatever subjects you want me to talk about in the next one. And I'll have to space them out because, there's so much to cover with these movies. And obviously, as I know from Stephen Ray Morris's podcast, See Jurassic Right, he talked about on Jurassic Park podcast recently about how it's very hard to find a particular subject to talk about in Jurassic Park because there's so many fans doing different things. And I agree, it's always hard to find that interesting subject. So it always lends a hand if you guys want me to talk about something. If you send a subject, I can weigh it up if I think it's something that I haven't heard before and good to talk about. Anyway, guys, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I can see everyone saying goodbye. All right. See you later, guys, and remember, life finds